Thank you.
Let's see if we can get these highlights up and rolling from Saturday's big homecoming win, 35-20 against Fairleigh Dickinson University. Coach, the student support, the fans, and the alumni were unbelievable Saturday, as there were over 4,000 people there. How great was it to see that type of support and get that type of atmosphere for the players?
Well, I think it's great for the players just because of everything that they put into this thing, the hard work, the long hours in the summer, the weight room. So to come out on homecoming and have the kind of support that, that the fans displayed was just unbelievable. And for really what the kids did in all three phases, when you talk about special teams, you talk about offense, you talk about defense, really all three contributed to this win.
There's no doubt about that. Well, the offense got off to a slow start in the first half, being backed up in their own end zone a couple times, as it was 13-7 at the half. But, Coach, the second half was a completely different story. Some guys were eligible to return to the second half after sitting out the first two quarters due to suspension. And plus, last year's starting quarterback, Chris Hopp, was put in the game to start the second half. Talk about how this jump started the offense and how well they handled the adversity as they came out and put 21 points up on the board in the second half.
I think, just through athletics in general, anytime you can throw a curveball or get something just to shake up, what you're doing, it brings excitement. And I think that the fact that it was new and it was different, everyone jumped on board, everyone rallied around it, and it really kind of helped jumpstart what we were trying to get accomplished, as well as when you look at, one of the key plays I thought in that second half was FDU was driving and we got a big interception, and that's really what set the tone, because if they would have scored there, we don't know what possibly could have happened.
Special teams was definitely the momentum changer for this game, without a doubt. Freshman cornerback Laquan Robinson had a monster day. I don't know what Coach Roosevelt Williams fed him before the game. Maybe it was his monstering, but whatever it was, it worked. Robinson returned two unbelievable kicks to the house, looking like Josh Cribbs out there from the Browns, and also had a key interception on the day. Talk about Laquan winning the MAC Special Teams Player of the Week and how he's starting to mature as a freshman.
Well, it's great because we've been putting a lot of pressure on him because, as we've shared as coaches, he's like lightning in a bottle. And there's no doubt that he had the ability to create big plays. And we just were challenging him all week about, hey, we're going to find a way to block a kick, or we're going to need a big return. So it was great to see him respond the way he did. And it was definitely, on both those returns, was a lot of determination.
As you see right here, as he takes his second one to the house in the second half, and the sidelines was really pumped up about that one. Now, Coach, defensively, the linebackers were flying around all day, almost coming up with a few interceptions, actually. But senior linebacker John Natter had a key interception, and sophomore Joe Wojciechowski paced away with 8 tackles and 2 for a loss, along with Shane Zumsky, who added another sack on the day, which I believe is right up there in the top of the MAC conference, which is no surprise. Talk about how well the defense played and the type of energy that they were flying around with. I know we say it every week that they're really flying around with that energy, but, Coach, it's the truth.
Well, at halftime, we just talked about, us doing what we do, and I think that you saw signs from, Alfred in week 1 till now. Our guys just knew that, hey, if we keep swinging the axe, the tree's going to fall. And the guys came out and played that way. Regardless of what happened, FDU had a very good quarterback, they had a good game plan, they got some yards at time, but our guys just lined up and played play after play. And when you do that, good things are going to happen when you have good football players like we do on defense.
Now, can you talk about how the secondary started to mature too?
Oh, it's been fun to watch those guys. The mixture of the young guys. We've shifted some guys around. So even EJ Stroman, who is a senior, you got to keep in mind he just moved to safety, so he's like a freshman. He's going through it all over again. So it's really neat to watch those guys be able to kind of put their games together and really come on here the last couple weeks.
As you see these highlights coming to an end, and we're going to get ready to introduce our 2 players of the week from Saturday's 35-20 win. Now, here with me today is sophomore linebacker Joe Wojciechowski and sophomore quarterback Chris Hopp, offensive and defensive players of the week. Guys, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, guys. All right, Chris, let's start with you, old man. It's a crazy story for you. Last year you started 9 games, and this year you come into camp and you lose your spot. But instead of burying your head, you kept working hard and you kept getting at it. Being down 13-7 at halftime, when you heard your name being called and you went in there and led this team back to the win, talk about what it felt like and what it felt like to get back out there and get your feet wet again.
It felt really good. The first 3 games were tough, but I knew I had to stay in the game, stay in the game plan, know what was going on each week, and be ready. You never know. Football's a brutal sport. Anybody could go down at any time. So it wasn't really a me kind of thing. I was thinking about if I need to be called on, I got to step up. And Saturday it happened, and I'm just glad I was ready.
Now, you took the offense up and down the field while finishing 18 for 28 for 200 yards and a touchdown. Talk about the chemistry you have with us guys on offense and how Coach put us in some great situations on Saturday to make some big plays.
I think the big thing that helped Saturday was picking up the tempo on offense. We were moving as quick as we can, and I really think that threw FDU off a little bit. They weren't ready to line up and switch personnels based on our personnel, so that helped a lot. Which is kudos to Coach Eager for getting us in that situation. But the chemistry-wise, having a year with the receivers and tight ends, and last year really helped. And going through camp and even through these 4 weeks getting reps, it really helps a lot.
Now jumping over to the defensive side of the ball, Joe, you finished with 8 tackles and 2 for a loss on Saturday. Talk about Coach Collins' defensive game plan and how you guys executed it so well, especially in the second half.
Well, basically, Coach Collins likes to call a lot of defensive based on the offensive personnel and puts us in the best situations to make plays. And when you're called upon, you're just supposed to do your job and make a play.
Now being only a sophomore, you're considered the young guy to the linebackers. How have the seniors like John Natter and Joe Favinger and Joe Collory all helped you adjust to the new defensive game plan?
Well, they're all great players, and most of them just lead by example. You kind of just watch what they do, how they handle themselves in practice, the way they go about doing their business. I mean, Natter, he doesn't say much. Joe Cal, he likes to talk a lot, but if you watch him play, he really backs it up. And Fav, he never stops talking. So, hey, but they're all good guys, and they're all great players, and they're real good to learn from.
Now, Chris, Coach Zwan, your quarterback's coach, who was just on here, this is the second year in a row that you've had to work with him. How much has he helped you, and how much have you benefited from what he's teaching you?
A lot. Actually, I was real good friends with his running back at Westchester, Sagio Sunday, so I was down and I saw Coach Zwan play a couple times. So when he came and I knew last year that he was coming, I was excited to learn from him. He's been great these past 2 years, teaching me a lot. And the addition of Coach Bob Bryce this season has helped as well.
Now, Joe, back to you. A lot of people talk about how angry you are, and I'll tell you, I'm your roommate, and you are usually a pretty angry kid from video games to on the field. What makes you so angry, and why do people call you Danny from The Replacements?
I don't really consider myself an angry person. I just react to certain things the way they happen. I might get a little more angry than other people, but I don't know. And being Danny from The Replacements, I don't know. He was a good football player, so I don't mind being compared to him.
Now, your sweetheart of your mother is watching at home. Is there anything you would like to say to her before you get off the show?
Hey, Mom. I can't wait to see you on Saturday at the game.
Oh, that's too cute. Guys, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and hopefully both of you will be back on in the future.
Thanks.
All right, now, Coach, we travel up to Wilkes-Barre to play my former school, Kings College, this Saturday. Kings is 0-4 right now, but they've been in every single game, as each one has been close. Now, this is their homecoming, and there's no doubt that us guys remember what happened last year, and we're playing with a chip on our shoulder as they came back and beat us last season. Talk about what our game plan will be going up there, and how nice it will be to get ourselves in a real rhythm and become 2-0 in the conference.
Well, I think, for us, right off the bat, the things we're going to talk about is getting a road win. I think that's important to any young football team. We have an opportunity to go up into somebody else's house on homecoming. And if we're able to execute and do the things that, we practice every single day, we should be fine. They're a good football team. They got a good quarterback. They got good skill. They run around on defense. So certainly for us, we're going to have our hands full. But when you get into league play, you wouldn't want it any other way. We feel every week is a challenge. And I think if we just show up and do our part, we won't have any issues. So certainly there's a lot of excitement. And when you throw in the factor that we did lose to them a year ago, we won't have to work too hard as coaches to motivate you guys. I think every guy understands what needs to be done this week, and we're looking forward to going up and playing another great game.
Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to join us today, as always. Now, Widener, we will be traveling up to Kings this Saturday at 1 o'clock up in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Tune in to WidenerPride.com for live stats and live audio throughout the game. And before I leave the show today, I promised Mrs. Wilson, Keith Wilson, our defensive line's mother, I'd like to thank her for cooking us such a fabulous dinner on Sunday night, myself and some of the other defensive starters. That was unbelievable, so thank you, Mrs. Wilson. You're an angel. And for Coach Collins, Joe Wojciechowski, and Chris Hopp, I'm your host, Rick Ritter, and we'll catch you next week on Kicking It with Coach. Thanks a lot, guys.